I'm Mr. James,
I'm Mr. Ritchie.
and we are the Educators. Season 4, mother. Oh, wrong podcast. Okay. Yeah. Season 4, episode 1. This is our
made it.
40th show. 40th show.
That's interesting. So season 4, 40th show. Our last season though was like 19 episodes.
Yeah.
So like looks like our seasons are getting longer as we go here, which I guess is a good thing.
And we mentioned that we would go into season 4 when we went remote. And guess what?
Guess what?
And this show was going to be about being remote until yesterday happened.
Now it's reality. Oh, yeah. And then,
It's so we named this The Destruction of Us, not just us as people living in this country, but also the country in general, the United States. It is a mess, and we're going to fill you in on what happened the other day. It is currently, I got to check my watch now because I usually have a calendar in front of me, but no, it is the 7th of January, and January 6th, 2021 was a horrible day, but we'll get there, right? We've got a few new things this episode, and we're going to start this new season, which is when we get to them, you'll find out what they are. But let's get right into it with the normal things. You're going to see a screen in front of you for this entire season, and we're going to be fixing things up. But this gives you something to look at besides us the entire time. But we'll be here in the corner, all right? So what's going on?
Well,
pandemic.
Still not looking good. But the good news is that we can kind of start from scratch here. So I didn't copy over the numbers from the last document that we share. So we're just going to start fresh with new numbers. We're not going to compare this first week. We're just going to see where it goes from here. And let's just, let's kind of reset, because today there was a lot. 3,591 in this week. In Maine, which is a lot. That's a huge number for this small area. The United States was 1.4 million and the world was 4.3 million. So millions of people every single week, at least in America, and millions of people just about every day in the world still unfortunately coming down with the virus. So there's still probably billions of people left to get the virus. There's still lots of people that have not gotten the virus, so there's still lots of reason to consider this a really important thing to care about. And it's one of the reasons why, or the reason, I guess, why we are full remote right now. And of course, the behaviors of people are the reason why we're really remote. If we could figure this out collectively, that would be one thing. But some people, we seem to close down, like some districts do. Some districts seem to close down because not because of an outbreak in the school, but because there's so many staff members that go out on vacation during a holiday and willingly put themselves out there, and then they come back and they realize, wow, getting a test is really difficult when there's record numbers of infections. So it's like, oh, I can't get my test back in time to go to work, and that shut down a bunch of schools. And that's a unique thing. I think that's a new thing for this stage of the whole event, I think, is that it wasn't an outbreak that closed some of these schools. But
I still seeing those numbers. I mean, the average every day is 500 something for the past 2 days it's been, and they said the
spikes of 700.
Yeah, it's like, okay, how many 500s until it's really, I mean, if you looked at a sea of 500 people, you'd be like, that's a lot of people. Wow.
Yeah.
I played music at a place outside a major business in the state is LL Bean. And I played outside on a stage there, and I looked out and I said, how many people is this? And they said, man, that's about, maybe if you think of the entire town or the reach of the sound, it'd probably cover 1,400 people possibly. and it just wave after wave of people. But in front on the lawn itself was probably about 500 people, and I mean that just looked like a lot of people. Now having every
Yeah.
one of those people sick, needing, like, that's, yeah. To me, I was like, that's
And
huge, and
it's really unfortunate too that we're like a lot, well, not we, but a lot of people have been like, they're the elderly or people with pre-existing conditions. And it's like, well, how can we possibly increase the lifespan in the United States if we let the old people die? Like they're old, they have certain health conditions, but like you can't just say, oh, they're above the life expectancy, so they were supposed to die anyways. Like there's a fairly significant amount of people that are kind of taking that approach. And it's like, well, I have a 94-year-old grandfather, and I'm like, well, how are we supposed to increase the life expectancy if we are just saying, oh, whatever, let's open the schools, let's open the stores, let's go back to normal life? When, if, okay, the old people are dying, well, we need them, we will be them
yeah.
someday. Like we can't just abandon them when they need us the most. Like this is a really strange situation we find us in, because I will be an old person someday, or at least I hope so. That's the best case scenario, really. Like until life extension comes out, I'll be an old person someday, or maybe I'll be old and not look so old. That'd be fine too.
Yeah, I mean,
But
like,
like,
you're a young person, but yeah, I'm actually 150 years old. All right.
right, like, so how can we work on that if we're not like thinking about it in a little bit broader of a sense? Like, I had family members that want to go visit my grandfather, and it's just sort of like, right now is not the time to do that. This is sort of like, we've got to not fight the system. This is what has to happen for a while. But hopefully, it's not season 4, but maybe season 5.
Yeah.
I doubt it, but maybe season 5 we can not talk so much about this virus. But
Yeah, we're definitely gonna, when we get our shots, we're gonna definitely, point to the arm where we got it.
I want to like live stream when I get mine.
Yeah, hey, that'll be for you Patreon subscribers. If we have, I think our Patreon page is doing
Yeah, if we
okay,
get a
I hope.
Patreon subscriber for $10 or more, I will live stream it, because it means that I will eat up a lot of data, and I
Yeah.
don't have that kind of a plan. So I'll need that money to pay my bill. So if there's a person out there that's like, all right, we're going to see a live stream your shot, I will do it. But
And
you
I
got to pay
will.
up, because yeah, I got a 1 gigabyte plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I have something like that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do the same thing. I'm even looking at getting something else that's similar to that, similar to like a vaccine that eventually be putting on my body as a quantified self thing. But we'll talk about that at some point in the future when we go into that in our little adventures of getting data from ourselves and our lives.
Yeah.
But we've got another segment. So I hope you appreciate the SpaceX.
I like that. I really do appreciate the SpaceX graphic here. That is some good stuff.
It's interesting
SpaceX.
that I put that up, and just today on NPR I heard that Elon Musk is the richest person in the world. He beat out Jeff Bezos. When I say Jeff Bezos and I say Amazon, my wrist shakes a little bit because it's recording me. This is an Amazon Halo band. Mr.
I've got one as well, but mine's having connectivity issues today.
Huh.
I'm going to call up Jeff and see what we can do about it.
Say, come on, I think you're the richest person in the world. And he's like, well, thank you. I'm not going to help you with your band.
And he'll be like, no, I'm not the richest person in the world. Elon Musk is, as of today.
Go get his Tesla band when it comes out. And you go, it's coming out? Really? I heard it's got a better battery life. So yes, science in the news. So that, aside from that, we have, we're gonna keep it simple today because it's gonna be we've got a lot to show you. We've got a little segment after this. It's brand new. These 3 I just saw, and I said, well, there's a lot of different things that came out, but most of them are just like, hey, we noticed this or that, or like, a lot of these science news now is asking a question. It's asking a question about something. Is it possible that this happened? And then you read up, and then you get to the end of the article, and you go, nothing was really answered.
It is not my favorite type of journalism. I'll tell you that. That is not. I despise that type of journalism, because you can do anything. You could be like, unicorns on the moon, and it's like, well, I asked the question, now we have to debate it. It's like, well, you could just ask any question, but I like a flat, call me simple, but I just love like, unicorns found on the moon. Like, all right, now I'm going to like read that headline. Let me look into that.
And show
They're
me
making
some
a statement.
numbers. I want to see
Yeah.
numbers, and I want it to be.
I want to see confidence and then followed up with numbers,
I just read a book that I'm like, are they giving me anything? And they really were not giving me anything. And so I'm hoping the next few books, I have a giant pile next to me right now
you
that
do have a
I'm
big
trying
pile
to
of
go
books.
through.
Yeah.
And they're all interesting. Some just
Yep.
so far, I'm not getting a lot of numbers. And I mean, hey, we've got Google, we've got YouTube. There are people that are reading things and they're putting out videos like we're doing right now, as well as podcasts, and giving you great advice, and they're cutting through the red tape. They're just getting right to the point. Do this. Here's the numbers. Boom, boom, boom. And sometimes it's just good for that because I mean, hey, we're limited in time, so it needs to be quick. We're not here for an easy read, and I'm strictly nonfiction right now. I'm going
Right.
right for the nonfiction. Someone can tell me a story, but when there's too many of these fake stories, and they go, "Do you understand what that story is about?" Like, yeah, I didn't see any numbers in that story.
Yeah.
I want to lengthen my telomeres. Tell me right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I know a lot of authors have gotten like, or just maybe that's just the style now, but like they're really good at filling space without answering the question. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
always been a thing, but like I'm really keen on that and I despise it. Like,
Yeah.
so the last, I guess, well, I haven't read a nonfiction book in quite some time. I mean, I haven't read a fiction book in quite some time because I've been sticking to nonfiction. But the last like biography that I read was about Neil Armstrong, and it was because there was something new on every page. I didn't think that you could know any more about a guy that was pretty simple and private and everything like that. But like it opened up and like, it didn't just ramble on like I'm doing right now, but it but it actually like solved problems. It answered questions about the backstory, and it's like right now I have to really be careful of what I'm reading. Right now I'm reading a book that you lent me, my second book that you've lent me. I've been trying to read a bunch of books recently, and I've read let's read it. I have it at the school, but Future Shock. I am now reading what is it?
The Sovereign Individual.
Sovereign Individual.
You hear
Yeah,
that, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk? It's your favorite book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
about that from another book.
The forward was by who was it? It was
Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Peter Thiel. And so yeah, interesting stuff so far. I have very little time to read it, but like as of yet, I'm kind of roped in. I have to ignore a few things to keep enjoying it, but I do appreciate it. I feel like the author has some disagreements with the way that I think, but you know what? He's making some good points, and I'll listen to data and logic any day.
Yeah. And so on with science in the news. First one, the plague may have caused die-offs of ancient Siberians. And they have DNA that suggests that deadly bacterium that caused the plague reached Northeast Asia 4,400 years ago. So normally the plague we remember, we remember because we were alive then. No. I believe that happened in the Shakespeare's time, 1500s.
Yeah, and well, there's a few different epidemics or pandemics depending on how broad of a scope you want to look at it. But like, it was during God, who's I'm the guy that made calculus.
Yes.
And I can't. So
unfortunate, guys. We have Google. We could totally go there, but it's so much better for us to discuss like this.
Let's see.
We have a fellow Googler.
Yeah. Let's see. Who invented calculus?
But that's the biggest thing.
Thank you. Like, so that was just a brain block on camera right there. Like I knew that, but like I just couldn't find the name. But anyways, Isaac Newton, he was in quarantine, or at least he was away from the city for 2 years. And for those 2 years, that's when he invented calculus and did a bunch of astronomical observations. A whole bunch of stuff happened in those 2 years. So, I mean, this is something that happens. This is pandemic, unfortunately, but at least we don't have the plague. So the plague is a whole different thing. So that's a bacterial infection versus a viral infection, which is a whole completely different kind of an organism. Like bacterial infection is just like mean, they're bad quickly, and I think that's what people think this virus is like. Once they get it, it's just like, oh no, immediate effects and stuff. Like, no, that's like bacteria means business. When they're so much bigger than a virus that once they get in, they can do some damage real quick. So I believe that, especially after living through a pandemic, I could see how a plague may have caused some die-offs in some ancient peoples.
It's just interesting to find that people are looking at this now because our current pandemic and thinking, well, how many times has this happened in history that we know? And then they find more things like, well, maybe this, they probably went back and said, we could float the idea that this probably happened to them. And then they, maybe they found some, like they said, they have some DNA. They said, well, this could be the plague. And they compared it with something else. And yeah, I mean, like once again, another science news where we push our history of things back further in time. And it's like, oh, now we have more evidence of this happening. So it's kind of better knowing that, hey, everything we know is, we have the past 1,000 years, give or take a few hundred of fairly good records of things happening.
Right.
And when we can go back much further than that with our special tools we have now, it's nice to just figure out like, oh, this has been around a lot longer than we thought it has. And I think it's, we find things out all the time. It's just too bad some of these ancient societies weren't that, that much adept at keeping things preserved pretty well. I mean, they're great with their monuments and maybe mummifying things, but
piling rocks, and especially when they found out that triangles make the best shape to pile rocks in, that became a big thing.
Yeah, it's just not being able to get enough. We have to find things in bogs and stuff, places in the world where the temperature stayed constant and cold and perfect for maintaining DNA or maintaining tissue. And that's where we're like, oh, this is a great place, but that's just kind of like happenstance. No one's like, I'm going to go die in this bog right now. So in 4,000 years, they can find me with my arm across me like this, and I can be under
like
lights.
Otzi or whatever.
Yeah. So, but that's, hey, great. I wanted to be a archaeologist at one point. I really was interested in that. I still am interested in a lot of this stuff like that. I don't want to get bitten by like giant mosquitoes and get certain diseases while trying to take a toothbrush to a bone, though, in the middle of a jungle. I kind of feel
commitment.
I was like, I can dig. I love digging. But all day for 6 weeks while getting as many different plagues of different insects and eating horrible food, I'm kind of not there. Okay. I'll type some things on a computer and make up some of the journals we need to continue our process. Okay. I'll be that person.
Yep.
Give me a little sip of some nice tea and stuff. Next up, zinc air batteries. Have you used these before on anything?
I don't know. I think zinc carbon batteries I've used, but I don't know about zinc air batteries.
It says these are typically single use, but a new design could change that.
It's very interesting. Well, so I'm a electric vehicle owner and enthusiast, and so battery technology is something that I've been involved with for quite some time. And a zinc air battery, I can't tell you, because you wouldn't use that in an electric vehicle anyways, because imagine driving to a destination, throwing away this giant battery, buying a new one. God, that'd be just the epitome of irony right there. But they used to exist. Cars used to exist with batteries that you couldn't recharge back when electric cars were competing with gas cars. They really had these cars that were in production that you threw away the batteries They got 50 miles of range. You threw the battery away, got a new battery. It was just like the opposite of what you would
Yeah,
imagine.
like
But
wow, it's a
yeah.
pile somewhere of those batteries.
Yeah, so I mean, battery technology, there's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of materials that when you put them together will store electrons and they will hold energy, but there's very few materials that will be production worthy. There's a very
Yeah.
few materials that will go together well with common machinery on a economic level that makes a business sustainable. And so that's what really drives this stuff. The inventor of the lithium ion battery came up with a battery that uses like glass. I think it was like a
Hmm.
super safe option, but like for some reason it just wasn't, well, probably not for electric vehicles, but maybe for homes and things. But still, it wasn't put into production, and it's just there's just this economic aspect of all of these technologies that really is the barrier for some reason. And so I am always looking out for new battery technologies, but I'm not sure that I don't know. I've never really heard of this type before, but
Yeah, it just feels to me like it's something that they said, well, we're going to see if we can go here with that. But like you mentioned,
yeah,
they can't scale it up if the money doesn't work. It's basically what we have to do because when you think of anyone thinks about any idea they have, they said, okay, can
yeah,
we scale that up to the amount that we need that it can have an impact? And
right,
how much money is it going to cost? And is it going to be, is this going to create a landfill of product? It seems to me that cell phone makers could smartphone makers whatever could care less about that. Like, hey, we're going to come with a
yeah,
new phone every 6 months, deal with it. We want people to buy the newest one too so we can keep making money, and we're going to make incentives so that they want to upgrade, even though we really don't want to do. There's not a lot that we can take off the old models they have and recycle, and whatever, we'll just ship it to this country that's going to try to dig through it anyways. And it's horrible that there's so many phones and so many companies doing
yeah,
that, and they all use batteries, and they all so batteries is a huge deal, which is why this would be a news item, because anything with any battery is like, wow, hey, what's going on? Someday we'll be running on batteries. I mean, we have batteries on our wrist right now.
that's right, too.
Yeah, I know, and I wish I had another wrist but I do have fingers, and there's a tracker for your finger. It's expensive,
Wow.
but it just came out in a different color. So just thinking, if you want gold, you want to change your wedding band to a different color. We'll talk about that at some point, everybody.
That's right.
Okay. Last one, and this is something we don't talk a lot. And then we did this one point when we had talked about some rioting happening, and we're going to talk about some other rioting that just happened very soon. But how schools can reduce excessive discipline of Black students. I would say African American. I don't like the term Black, but this is used an awful lot around is showing somebody who has just a different color than Caucasian, right? I think any
Yeah.
skin besides, like, I guess our skin color, Caucasian. Um, but in reading the article, uh, it didn't. It basically was one of those articles where they said this is a problem, and we all agree it is. But they said we just kind of need to think about it more and figure out how we can make an environment that isn't all inclusive as well as unbiased towards any student. And that's kind of what I got out of this entire thing. They said, okay, this is how schools can do this. And I was like, why is this? So I'm getting these stories from sciencenews.org. I've been doing that. Uh, and I just feel like, yeah, could have used a few numbers. They did mention, they do throw in graphs of how, in comparison to, rates of discipline and rates of you know if they're if certain student population subsect is graduating enough, or they need more help, or they're dropping out or stuff like that. And that basically said the same exact thing, and they're tracing it back. They said, well, it's excessive discipline, which is kind of this root of everything. and basically take a more social, emotional route, and as well as teachers just checking themselves and their biases at the door, basically.
And we teach in a incredibly like Caucasian state,
Yeah,
but in the most diverse district.
yeah,
And so this is actually really good information for people that we work with because, um, we are in an incredibly diverse district that you've got to have a you've got to have an awareness of the community when you work in public schools. So um, it's good information. We have to check our biases and make sure that we are delivering equal education to everybody, and that's science as well as social awareness, basically.
yeah. So a new segment we want to do, and this is kind of very similar to like the vein you were just talking about, is talking about from an educator. And for
From an
those watching
educator.
on YouTube, sorry about the little apple design that I have there. I was looking for different pictures, but we'll get to some
I like
interesting
it.
note about files and pictures that I add to these slides, because this is season 4. It is the slide version of our show in all season long. Going to see some slides. All
I like
right.
it.
So this is about student engagement. We're educators. We'll just talk briefly about student engagement. I had 3 things to mention about this, and this is about how do you create student engagement. So we're remote right now. What you're seeing, if you're seeing us on YouTube, is what students are seeing. Uh, except for I usually have a guitar or something in my hand, and
Yeah. I'm usually standing and not in front of a world chart, but in front of like a whiteboard and
yeah.
a computer monitor.
So we're yeah. This is we want to get engagement. It's hard. You have to set certain rules with Zoom, of course. Do not shut your camera off.
Oh, it's
Ask to
so
go to the
strange.
bathroom. All of this.
It is so strange. So I've had all of that, of course. I've kids that are like, can I go to the bathroom? And I'm like, can you wait after like you just did all of this effort to get on the Zoom call? And she's like, oh, okay, yeah. And I'm like, all right, and then people that turn off their video and it's like, all right, I saw before you turned off your video, I saw you pick up your Nintendo Switch and then you turned off your video. Like, I know that you're not like paying attention right now. Like, you've got to rejoin for you to be considered participating. Like, I tell that to kids too,
Yeah.
because we're participation based. I'm like, well, I can't tell that you're participating if your screen isn't on. And it's like, what a weird time to be in where that's
Yeah. The first time a kid
that's
goes, "Can I
classroom
go to the
management.
bathroom?" I said, "Can you go to? Can I go to the bathroom?" I said, "Don't take us with you."
Yeah,
I go,
yeah,
"Please don't take us
right.
with you." Like, don't worry, I won't. And I'm like, as I was afraid, I'm like, oh no, this could be a problem. And I don't think I have the ability to shut off someone's camera. Although I haven't looked in all the options on Zoom, so
I don't know.
it's
I think you can
yeah.
just boot them.
I
You
can
can
I
request that
can
they
yeah.
turn off their
I can do
camera.
that. I can mute them, and I did have to
Yeah.
erase some doodling on a book I had to read to
Yeah, I had a student
kindergarten
doodle as
class.
well,
They
but
said,
I
I'm going to
said,
circle something. And when they all had to circle it. And then I was like, how am I going to get rid of these? I can't read the next page. And I found how to erase everything. And it was great. And yeah. And I was like,
there's a
oh,
way to shut that off, apparently. I don't know. I
yeah.
had a student do that, and I said, oops, looks like you doodled. And she was just like, oh, and erased it. Like, I think she really thought she was just doodling on her own page, but what a
So,
weird, like, all this stuff is so strange for the kids, for us. Um, my first experience in this was my daughter's online education. So it's just like so strange to watch other teachers trying to teach your child at all. And like that's a thing that a lot of parents don't get. And I know that when I'm on camera that I'm in front of parents as well as children, and I've got to be extra professional,
yeah.
really show them that I care and I'm good at this, and so what an experience. But
Um,
yeah, let's get
so,
into
so my
I'm an
3
educator.
things briefly of a student engagement. I like to start with a personal question. So I like to start with some sort of question. I use national holidays every single day of the week. There is a national holiday, and it could be something as weird as whipped cream day, which happened on Tuesday of this week. Uh, Monday was Spaghetti Day, which I have celebrated with children. I've told them about that. They really enjoyed that. I have a
I love
Bitmoji of
spaghetti.
myself eating spaghetti. But I always start with some question of like, hey, have you had this before? What do you think of this? Some of them are a little bit more serious. And, time travel, it was Time Traveler's Day. And I asked them, would you like to go back in time or forward in time? And why? And some of them really, some of these were really deep, well thought out. This is for like a fifth grade class. So I always like to start with some sort of question to kind of break the ice and get us thinking. And then I can get into something more musical oriented, but at least it gets them so I can be like, listen, okay, I'm about to turn into music teacher. But before that, I'm human and you're human. Let's talk about something human. Let's talk about toilet paper, guys. Okay. I mean, seriously.
Was it toilet paper day recently?
No, but there is a toilet paper day.
Oh yeah.
I'm very sure. But there's also other holidays that sometimes are more for adults and things like that. So I have to weed through my giant list from my source every single day.
Sure.
So some holidays is like 10 holidays in one date. And half of them I'm like, yeah, they're not going to understand this. But every state's got
Right.
its own holiday as well. And we had Maine Day a few weeks ago. So it
Nice.
was great.
Go
I
Maine.
also like to teach about why students should care about what I'm showing. Like
Yeah,
why am I even
absolutely.
showing you this?
Like, don't just teach the subject, but teach why it's important, why you should care. That's a really good point.
I mean, I want them. I said, listen, this is what I'm showing you, and the reason why is because this leads to this, leads to this, leads to that, and there you go. It's really important. And also, if you don't even like it in a music context, think of it as this is going to help you in these other contexts. And that's one of my things to drive home is that I'm not teaching you music. I'm teaching you to think and to react and to be able to get some sort of these fine motor skills and things at the same time, kind of like to grow into your body. I mean, dance, movement, all these things I use in my class basically are things that, hey, you could be hiking or playing a sport, you're going to use this.
Yep.
If just because you might have a song in your head and you're thinking in terms of, okay, I'm moving to this song, it could be the same movement you're using in soccer. And maybe the song is going to help you in soccer. I mean, I taught kids how to bounce a basketball more efficiently by using a metronome. And they were
Yeah.
like, what? This is crazy. And I'm like, yeah.
I
I
like that
said,
idea. That's a really good lesson idea. I like that. Bouncing to the metronome. That's really cool.
and it just, and showing them, I said, okay, you got to keep up to this. And now try this rhythm. We change rhythms, but it was just why it was important. And I'm constantly doing that. Every single lesson has to have a why, not just because I'm trying to do some sort of standards thing. And honestly, to tell you the truth, of the standards that we have,
Yeah.
they're so loosely based on
Right.
on students learning how to read standard notation that it's everything's kind of up in the air. So you really can take your liberties on everything. And I am teaching them how to read,
And
but
it's
I'm
a,
teaching them how to love music. That's the most important thing and
and that's a
why
good
it's
thing.
important.
Right. Because you have so much freedom, it's a good thing that we care, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially for this year. Like, it's easy to be a bad teacher this year, and it's difficult to be a good teacher this year. And
Yeah.
it's those teachers that are, acknowledging the challenge ahead of us, that can dive into the why behind the what. So that's a good point.
I also last like to create what I call awe moments in each lesson. And that just means I want to create, if I'm teaching something, I want it to kind of come to a head somewhere where I can say, and then this turns into that. And it could be like me just turning around and clicking on a tiny video, and then they see something and go, what? What? I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Or a story, and it always has this aha moment. And I always like to have that every single class. I want these awe things. And it doesn't affect every student the same way, but I
Right. No,
can
it's very specific usually when that happens, but it's nice when that happens.
I just like doing that. I love kindergartners for the fact that everything I do is magic to them, and I love just lifting things up off the floor like I'm actually things are being created magically. Like I have instruments I do that with, and I put into a context of me doing magic, but I'm not. And yet they're still like, what? And they know it's not magic, but they're just like, wow. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I want this reaction all the time. And I want to
Yeah.
get you to that. So that's why we're crafting. We're crafting to make things better and better and better. So we can walk in and every
Yeah.
like few minutes create an awe moment to have that just awe until like, whoa, I can't wait till I come back.
Flying a drone around in my room was one of the greatest moments, just to see, like, it was 85, 90% of the kids were just like, whoa, like totally engaged watching. And that happened to be one of my observation days by the principal. So
Yeah.
it was a win-win for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, if I just shred on my guitar in
Yeah.
front of them, play some sort of heavy metal song and stuff like that, and maybe move around and do some jump kicks and stuff like that. Boom, there you go. That's all. Whoa, that's crazy. And I'm like, hey, I could do this all day,
Yeah.
but you're not going to learn anything. It's just a
You're like,
performance.
I have done it all day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't all day. So what are your three sort of
Well, so
student
with
engagement
student
things?
engagement, the biggest thing that I found is that I really try to hook kids' hobbies or interests. And it can be difficult, but like right now for me it's kind of easy because almost every kid wants to be a YouTuber
Yeah,
or a TikTok star or whatever you call it, which involves video engineering. And so it involves technology, involves things that I know about now, especially because of the podcast. But it involves things that are in my wheelhouse that I could figure out pretty easily. And so whenever I start talking about that stuff, a lot of these kids pay attention. And right now in our culture, this is an interesting thing, but like there are, fifth and sixth graders especially, they'll be in your class and like doing these dance moves, and it's like, what are they doing? And they're trying to remember numbers that they saw on TikTok,
yeah,
like routines, dance routines or whatever. And that's a part of the culture right now, and it's going to be a short blip in time, I think, but like what an interesting thing. And it's like, all right, well, I finally gave in. When I was working out of high school, I tried to get kids away from YouTubers stuff. Just like,
yeah,
once you get outside, do some more other things, but sometimes you just got to play into what their interests are. And I found it much more engaging. I think with student engagement, patience with their behaviors
yeah,
and their personalities. Um, One girl that stands out is just someone that has just this overt attitude and will just put her head down whenever she feels like it, and just like will just whatever. But sometimes you get her on track and she's just like, she dives in, and you finally see that she does actually care. She's putting on this big show
yeah,
just because of other personal issues. She's growing older, so of course there's just a lot of stuff going on. And it's just like, if I was the type of teacher that was just like gruff with her all the time and just like, you need to comply, it wouldn't have worked, and she would never have felt comfortable in my room. And so there are little success stories that you hold on to, but patience, it's really the best way to get student engagement, because
yeah.
um, they introduce themselves to you in little snippets at a time, and you can't really nail down a kid at all. Like, I know who he is, who he's going to be. And so you kind of sometimes got to wait it out. And then kind of like you like to create the awe moment. I agree. I like to make it memorable when they're in my class. So
Yeah.
there's that wow factor, which is really hard to obtain this year for me, because I need more time to really get into the the why, behind the what and the how for me, especially like, how do computers work? Well, I can't give you a 15-minute mini lesson or lesson let you watch a 5-minute video, and then answer 20 minutes of questions. I don't have that much time left. I've still got to worry about handing out materials, getting you lined up, all this stuff. And it's like, but they're, you know, I know I can't answer their questions, so I try to anticipate what they could be and try to answer it with content, you know, what I'm doing, and give them offshoots to go and track it. But like, if you make it memorable, like when I flew the drone, you know, that really stuck out in kids' minds so much that I had asked the kids afterwards, all right, during my presentation, I told you what our focus will be this trimester. What's it going to be? It was engineering, but they said drones. You know, there was a significant amount of kids, and it was just like, oh, of course, I kind of fooled them there, you know, because the wow moment was different than the end result. But, you know, just sort of one of those things. It's like, all right, it's memorable. That's what they remember. The kids remember not necessarily what you taught them, but how you made them feel, what you did around them. And that's been a pretty big winner for me, is really making it memorable, having some patience with them, and figuring out what it is that they like.
Are you ready to get into
the dark part?
All right, everybody. So
juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you might want to describe what happened yesterday. I'll move to the slide.
It was a dark moment in American history, is what happened yesterday. And it was like, it wasn't like a real coup attempt, but it was sort of like a setup charade coup attempt that happened yesterday. Basically, there's more security in the picture that we have displayed than what was ready for a giant mob at the nation's capital. And unfortunately, our capital was overrun with a bunch of very excited people that interrupted procedure for a few hours, eventually kicked out, and worse, you know, charges filed and things. And so it's really just this exclamation point on years of issues that have come to a head, and it's kind of an unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
Would that about fair, what you would say for an assessment as of what happened yesterday?
Yeah. It's basically a number of people on one side of the extreme political fence.
Yeah.
Breaking into our nation's capital and lounging about and damaging property.
Yeah.
And saying that, hey, we're here and we can do whatever we want. And some cases, law enforcement, I think we're getting selfies with them. At least that's what I saw a few posts mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen that, and videos of them sort of letting them in, and interesting things. Like, I don't know, just things that you wouldn't expect to see at the nation's capital. Yeah. When I went to the nation's capital, I went there for the march, the climate march. There was like 7,000 people, I think, 5,000 to 7,000 people there when I went. It was 2017. And I was there in the middle of it, and I saw security. I think that this march was bigger. I think it was like 10,000 people, and security was lax. There was like a line of cones in front of in front of the Capitol, and like, you know, 10 security guards or something like that. And it's just sort of like, obviously stuff happened. We have you know, a lot of things going on in the nation. We you know, the graphic right now says the destruction of the U.S. Because there was an attempted coup. These people were attempting to go into the Capitol to disrupt the democratic process. Yeah. And no matter who you are in America, that's a coup. That's a, you know, that's treason. It's a huge deal. It's all of these words that we hear in class that we never have had to mention in public before. And it's like, you know, the word treason just seems so old. It's like pirates do that, yeah, you know, or like, you know, like
treason.
Yeah. And it's like, we have to talk about this nowadays. Like this is coming back. And it's like, a lot of partisan politics, and it's these words and things that I never thought that I'd have to have an interest in. And we now, unfortunately, during this time, have to have a vested interest in this stuff because there's been years of pent up frustration behind this, with a leader that has just incited people in a lot of aspects of his personality, both pro and anti, because he believes that no matter what it is, any press is good press, whether you hate him or love him. And so as a result, he could rope you in and you love him, or really make you dislike him. And he's good at it. He's really good at it. He's made a career out of it. And then, of course, the single incident yesterday, like I mentioned, was definitely a product of like lax security, almost sort of like criminal behavior. It seems like overtly just out there in the open. So, but what do we do from this moment on? And my take is that it's time for us to sort of really step back and take a look at communication. So how do people communicate in a democracy? And a key part of democracy itself, if you go all the way back to Rome, and you study what is democracy, it's debate. The reason why we have debate clubs in schools is because it is a foundation of democracy. Having an intelligent conversation and challenging someone's ideas is so key to a country that leads itself, that it is in, it's a club. Like, and I never knew what that was when I was a kid. Like, debate club, who wants to go and argue with each other, for fun? And it's like, well, that's what you're going to be doing as an adult for
forever. Like, no matter what it's always going to be
as a teacher. You have parents, I had one email me today, like, for some reason your lessons just showed up all of a sudden and we had no idea. And it's like, well, it's not really how it happens, but sure, I'll appease you for a minute. But like, and then I've had over a decade in customer service where it's just sort of like dealing with emotions and appeasement and illogical conversations and things like that. And it's a strange thing, but like, understanding humans sometimes are illogical. That's an important part of it. But like, when it comes to leadership and who runs the place, if your argument can be backed up with science and facts and numbers, then it deserves to disappear. Like, that which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, regardless of the topic. End of story. If you don't bring evidence and facts to the table, it can be wiped off your mind because there's no reason to keep it there. And so, we have to realize that ideas have to be discussed and not emotions. If we focus on the emotions of everything, which are a key part, we can't deny the emotions of people. That's where SEL learning comes in and everything. But ideas run the place. All right. You can't abandon real facts, ideas, and thoughts that are backed with science. So if we're going to have an equal playing field for everybody to participate, we have to believe in the same reality. And right now, the best as we can say, reality is based in physics. It's based on a foundation of laws and rules. And we find ourselves in this moment in time. We exist in a democracy. We have to accept these things and move forward no matter what side you're on. But that's my piece, at least.
Yeah. I have a little different slide. Notice the sorry if it triggers some of you.
It's like one of these things. It's like
the Dollar General really is triggering.
Just us talking about the coronavirus as a fact could be triggering.
Yeah.
And
I noticed in this photo is like maybe a few people wearing a mask. The rest of them are not.
Oh.
You can actually see that. Yeah. And they have a certain flag up for those listening on the podcast.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see that.
A certain president we have, and the Dollar General is in the background.
Oh, isn't that a symbol of America right there?
Yeah. So I thought of Destruction of not just the U.S., but us. I said we're a fragmented country.
Mm-hmm.
There's irrational anger, conspiracy theories. There's the idea that government is out to get us. And that's basically what we keep hearing about. Don't go to the government. They're out to get us. They're hiding things from us. We don't trust them. Let's rush, those that we basically have voted in. Let's get them out of there. I mean, hey, do I like anybody really in politics? Do I like anybody who wants to stick their neck out and say, vote for me for this and that, and then they finally get a job where they really don't hardly do anything? I mean, they debate, but sometimes this is just people talking for hours and nothing getting through.
Nothing. Yeah.
So really, I don't want to give everybody a cushy job if they're not actually, burning calories and actually doing something, physically doing something. Like the person who's mixing chemicals right now, trying to solve a cancer, that person's physically doing something. That's my hero, right?
Yeah.
The people in sitting around debating things, not my heroes. No. So I totally understand at that level, but they're not out to get me. They're not smart enough. The government as a whole is not smart enough to be doing all of this. If you think of them working together, it's hard for that many people, which we call government, to work together. It really is hard. It's hard for people. It's barely, you go to a fast food restaurant, they can barely make your food.
But that's why we hire them. So like we hire them to go and debate with each other so we don't have to.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you should just go and fight for us, because that's what we're hiring you to do. It's what we're paying you hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. Go and fight for us. Make life better for us. Let's stop dealing with these stupid problems that we've got, like are existing for 100 years. Let's move on to more important things. But I
just feel like that many people together are not that coordinated, especially when they come from different, they're all fighting for something different.
Yeah.
And I think it's uncoordinated. And that to me is government in a nutshell. It's uncoordinated. Yep. Some branches are more
still better than a monarchy.
Yeah.
I'll take that over a monarchy.
But they're still uncoordinated, but they're not out to get us. I don't think they can even get themselves. They're barely holding themselves up to get their suits on and show up. And so, yeah, I'm not worried about them out to get us. I'm worried about those extremists that are against them out to get us, because that's similar to a Civil War time. But now it's like seemingly every single state has these extremists that are just completely gung-ho and gun heavy, because on the way today, let's just say January 7th, I was driving to get groceries. I passed 2 gun stores. I've never seen more than one car in their parking lot. They were both packed. And this is like 5 o'clock.
God, this whole pandemic has been nothing but a boon for gun stores, gun manufacturers.
I'm sure they're afraid anyways, just for the fact that they're like, wait a minute, this next president coming in is probably going to take my guns away. Let's make sure I can double up, get as many as I possibly can.
Gun prices have gone up. And I say that because I own guns. I do have some, to be honest with you, but I'm responsible. I believe in responsible rules and laws, and I don't think it should be as free and willy-nilly as everything is, America. But, it's, I don't know, this whole rush, like the prices have gone up so much because these people, like ammunition is short. Like we're in America and ammunition is hard to come by right now. Yeah. And I haven't shot a gun in years, but like I didn't need to, I need to probably go and target practice, but like, I don't know, right now it's cold outside. I don't want to go do that. But it's like, I also don't want to have to go buy expensive ammunition because all these other people are buying it up right now. Like, it's just not worth it. It's like, it's really strange right now that so many people are hoarding this stuff because they feel this impending thing. And well, yesterday was their chance. It didn't happen. Like, it's not revolution time. Nobody's, if anybody's oppressed, it's not the people that were at the Capitol yesterday.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
If there's anybody that's oppressed and feeling like they need to revolt, it is not that crowd. So like they didn't have the fight in them. that was what was apparent. It was just like, there's a different ferocity when you're really fighting against tyranny versus when you are pretending and putting on a show. And yesterday was a show.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. So, and one of my other big things is that during an argument, both sides need to progress. I mean, any argument, any debate, both sides need to progress together towards each other, right? Just saying. So I'm using some hand puppets for those that are listening to the podcast. I'm using my hands. One of them saying, "Hey, I believe this. Listen to my opinion," and the person goes, "Okay, I'll listen to your opinion, but I believe the opposite of that opinion. Okay, but I blah, 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 this fact." And they go, "Okay, what about this fact? Okay, this fact." And they keep getting closer and closer until they kiss. No, but they get closer and closer so they can understand each other.
Yeah.
But most of the arguments people make are two people claiming two unrelated things. So they're not arguments. They're talking about two different things. And no one steps back out of them and says, "Hey, we're not talking about the same thing."
Yeah.
Like, we're not arguing the same thing. You're angry about this, and I'm angry about this.
Right.
And they don't deal with each other. Like, you think they do, but you're wrong. They don't deal with each other. I think you're right. Stop getting so upset about what you're upset about. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Do you think I'm right?
It's like,
basically they should do that.
I'm upset. I have something to say, and you happen to be the person engaging me right now.
Yeah.
You're going to hear what I have
So
to
I'm
say.
going to unload about my thing that has nothing to do with what you're angry about, but I'm going to take the fact that you're upset about something and use that as you're upset about what I think, what I'm thinking about, even though you can't get in my head and you obviously don't understand where I'm coming from, because I can't make myself clear enough about what I'm coming from. And that's what happens. It's always an argument's always two people talking about two unrelated things. And that's the same thing for probably a majority of couples fighting about anything. It's always two unrelated things.
Right. There's an
Someone
underlying...
to step back and say, "Hey, listen, you both are not talking about the same thing. So zip it." Stop fighting, being angry. You're not talking about the same thing. Let's just start agreeing on make tiny little steps of agreements so we can build something together. And then we can branch off and say, "Hey, maybe you can relate that." Till we can plug our heads into each other, brains and just.
The second we do that, we'll regret it.
Yeah, like, "Oh, that's horrible. Why'd you make me do that?"
Yeah.
The last thing was, how many of those, this is an observation, how many of those is with cynical hostility and prone to emotional outbursts are focusing on their own health and longevity? I had to bring that up. Really, like, they're so upset about all these things. I mean, look at the people in the photo for those that on YouTube, those that don't have masks on. There's some that do have masks on. Those that are so upset and really want to be in gung-ho and this and that, and they're not really thinking about their own health. They're not just talking about we're in a pandemic, but I mean, that's a huge deal. But there's so many other things they could be thinking about and doing. Like, they're going to die on this hill for no reason. They really don't want to live. I mean, so be it. You don't want to live, and you should just be coming out. I don't want to live my life. I forfeit my life. And it's not from, it is, I guess it is from a certain belief system, because we've had that talk in this show before about those that don't really want to live forever because their belief system says, if you don't live forever, then you're going to get something better. There's something that's going to come after that's going to be even better. And maybe this is what we're seeing a little bit too for those that are just like, I
think it's a big part of it. Yeah.
I'm going to go to this big rally, and I'm angry, and I'm just going to be there to show my face. And I don't care if I get sick or whatever, I'm going to do this. I don't really care about my life. It's just I'm just part of this giant mass. And that sort of, I don't know, that hive mind is not so useful for longevity. It's not.
No, it's so true that you say that though. Like, it is interesting. Like, the one rally I went to, I was kind of paid to go to. It was like I was at work, and it was during a work day where me and the owner just felt compelled to go down to this rally. And it's like, well, I see all these rallies, like, the ones that are for like racial justice and against police brutality, it's like, okay, I get that. And it's like, they're gonna not go to work. They feel compelled to go do this, but it's like, to overturn an election, and it's like the people that are doing it not wearing face masks during a pandemic, crowded together. It's like, they really are not thinking about longevity. They don't have that long view. They don't have
like, hey, what am I in 5 years when I look back at this?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's upsetting. It's so upsetting for that sort of thing. So we're taking an extra long in the show. We're going to be wrapping this up soon, but we want to show you one last thing that's going to be a new thing we're going to try, which is called the 60-second rant. What this is we each get 60 seconds to just unload anything. It doesn't have anything to do with the show. If we don't want it to, it can be something completely different. You got something to go on, Mr. Ritchie?
I don't know if it's... I don't. I have to think about an appropriate thing. I don't want to go too far in one direction right now.
How upset were you yesterday when you learned about this?
All right. Well...
Are you ready? I'm going to click play. You got 60 seconds. Yep. That's it. Here we go.
All right. So, like, I can imagine, like, getting upset and really going to the Capitol Hill if you're really oppressed, if you're really under a lot of pressure. But right now, in the middle of a pandemic, to go show up, to just charge in to the Capitol Hill. Once you get in there, the biggest thing you think about doing is taking a selfie. You were not there for a revolution. You did not know what you were doing. I don't know why you thought that was a good idea to go in not wearing a mask, especially during a pandemic, and especially knowing that you were breaking federal law. But by not agreeing to wearing a mask, you also made yourself very easy to get picked up by law enforcement. So I really am curious as to your thoughts. And if any of you happen to be watching this, please let us know, because it looks ridiculous from this side.
Wow, perfectly rounded out. Yes. All right. I'm ready to go.
All right.
Let's see if I can get this thing to click again. We're learning the ropes here.
Yeah. We're doing it live.
All right. So I have all these books to read. Yes. If you didn't know yet, I'm a quantified self person. I've gone crazy. And I'm just going to quickly go over these books. Right now, I'm kind of getting into this thing right now. This is the Beginner's Guide to Winning the Nobel Prize. It's going to be interesting, I'm hoping, but that's going to be my kind of almost fiction-like. It's nonfiction, but it reads like a fiction. I already read The Telomere Effect. And let me tell you, this is a lot of stuff that I already knew about, basically. And I think if you have common sense, exercise, eat right, take care of yourself, have longer telomeres, right? Perfect. Great. This one's called Hacking Happiness. It has to do with apps and quantifying yourself. Hopefully it's going to be amazing. I just started that one. I've got The Human Algorithm, which should be another amazing read about quantified self. And of course, Aubrey de Grey's Ending Aging, which should be on everyone's bookshelf. And I can't wait to get the newest version of this whenever it comes out, because this is already more than 10 years old. Boom.
Nice.
Like I told you, this is random.
I like it.
Oh, and it's starting again. No, don't start again.
That's it. No. I gotta go rant. No, all right.
Oh no. All right, last page. All right. Well, this is a great long show. Hopefully you learned a few things. Let me pack away all these books. Wow. So, yes.
What a couple of days it's been.
I say for some reason. Okay, I must have clicked on something. Okay, this is great. Okay. All right. You know what? This is actually good for if we have certain watchers who need captions. It's captioning everything.
Is it? I don't see anything on this side.
Okay.
I can't wait to see what this looks like in hindsight.
All right, great. It's writing down everything I say, and it's writing down it very well. So.
All right. Oh, I see it.
Well, everybody, this is us, and thank you. This is seasons 4. We're happy that you came with us, and this is going to be the new thing. And we're going to try to wrap this thing up and try to keep things concise in the future. We were just really heated tonight, but we're getting used to the new ropes. But we're going to pull some slack and put some effort into them. And yeah, I'm Mr. James.
And I'm Mr. Ritchie.
And we are the Educators. Have a good night or day, whatever you want.